Hey there, Pursuing Freedom listeners. Thanks for tuning in today. I'm super excited today to introduce you to a new friend named Danielle Seifert. She's with ReMax Concepts in Ankeny, Iowa, near Des Moines. And Danielle is actually a friend of one of our early guests on the podcast, Shar Claceris, who was, I think she was episode number 6. And I had reached out to Shar to find out if she knew any folks that would make a great guest for the show. And I think within 12 seconds, she responded with Danielle's contact and said in all capital letters, she's amazing. And I can already tell from just the last 25 minutes of chatting with Danielle before we started recording that, yes, she is amazing. She got into real estate about 15 years ago. And as I mentioned, she's currently with ReMax. She has done everything from new build to being a solo agent to having a team. And we're just going to dig in because there's so much great content that she has to share with you. So Danielle, with no further ado, if you could tell us a little bit about your backstory, what got you into real estate when you did in 2003, and what's the journey looked like for you since the beginning to where you are today?
Hi, thanks for having me. The funny thing about, which I always tell people this, what my degree is MIS, computer programming from Iowa State. And people that know me are like, what? That doesn't make any sense. Because I quickly found out I could not sit behind a desk. I was in charge of potlucks and anything social so that I could actually talk to people. My real estate agent at the time became a good friend of mine. And she said, you really should get into real estate. So I jumped in, both feet, just went, just like I do everything. I don't really half-ass anything. And got my real estate license, started doing open houses, landed my first builder within 6 months of being in the business, and have had a builder or new construction project every year since. There's been plenty of ups and downs and losing builders, gaining builders. You know, there's that in real estate market and in the industry anyway. But then when you add new construction into it and the different personalities involved in that, it's been quite the ride, but I wouldn't change any of it for the world. I now have a team, which is not your typical team. I almost want a different word for it because I feel like the team name is, it leads you to think one way and I'm completely the opposite. But having the time of my life, more production than ever, and getting to mentor and help some of the most amazing agents that we have in the Des Moines area.
I love it. I'm laughing also because the fact that you're friends with Shar, if you listen to her episode, I think one of the first things she said is that when I got into real estate, I just jumped in head first because that's the only way I know how.
That's funny.
Oh my gosh. So no wonder you two are friends. And I'm glad that we're connecting because I'm the same way. I made a joke that every year since, I don't know what year, that I always say around this time of year, I say, 2019 is going to be the year where I sit back and put my feet up. And everybody laughs because, it's just not part of my DNA to go slowly. It's just not part of my DNA to just test the waters. It's like, it's all in, or go big or go home, right?
Yeah, that's everything in my life. Yeah.
So I'm interested, well, I want to dig a little bit into your history working with builders because we've really never covered that on this show with any of our previous guests. But before we go there, I'm curious, do you also pursue the traditional routes of, just belly to belly residential consumer direct,
Yeah. Yep, absolutely. And, in the times of the ups and downs and all that, having those resales to fill those gaps has always been huge. And most of the time to sell a new construction, they're going to have a resale that I have to sell to make the whole deal happen. And I'm a control freak. So at any point I can have control over the whole situation, that's the most exciting thing for me, is to have that whole control and be able to get this deal done, because then I get this deal done, and then I make it all happen. So resales are always a big part of new construction because people have to move from somewhere. Obviously there's rental situations too, but a lot of times they're moving, and the higher price point you get, the more likely it is that you're gonna have to sell a resale to get the whole deal done. So becoming a resale agent is just as important as being a new construction one. So
awesome. So when you talk about the builder relationships, I am assuming that you mean as the exclusive listing agreement, you're the listing agent on all of the sales, and that you also have the opportunity to bring the buyers as well. Is that right?
Yep, I do a lot of dual agency, especially with the builder that I have right now. I started it up with them, and that would have been 7 years ago, maybe now. And I'm the exclusive agent for them, and we are mainly a custom builder. So we get a lot of people that come to us direct because of the custom build. But the cool thing about having the relationships I have is that other agents come to me too, knowing that number one, I'm not going to steal their client. We're going to take care of them. I'm going to communicate with them. So I've kind of built a business around being a new construction custom agent.
And okay, so let's backtrack a little bit, because if we're listening, if there's an agent listening who thinks to themselves, man, that sounds amazing for obvious reasons, and to have a steady stream of business, et cetera. Is there any insight you can share from your experience into how exactly do you go about establishing the relationships, which I assume is a byproduct of leading with value? So what does it look like? How do you communicate your value to these builders and establish those relationships?
When you're first starting, it's harder because number one, you're new. But so I always started at open houses, no matter if I was between builders or what I was doing. Open houses were essential because the proof was in the pudding. I got clients, I could sell them a new construction house. And the best thing about new construction is that normally you have a model home, but if they don't like this or that, well, then we build you one, or we have this option down the street. So by having those options, I could prove that I could take them from a model house to contract. And once you kind of get that proof, whether it's because you're the listing agent or you're just holding open houses, then you can go to the builders and say, okay, this is what I can do, and here's the proof that I've done it. It's hard just to jump in and to say, hey, I promise I'm going to work hard and I'm going to get this done for you. Like, it's a builder's business. That's hard for them to say, okay, I'll trust you. Let's go. Work hard and do what you can to get yourself in those open houses, or get yourself in those situations where you can take a buyer walking in the door and take them to contract and close.
So I know now, I mean, well, I guess my assumption is, based on what little information I have here, is that you've really built a brand around being an expert agent in the new construction realm. But you also mentioned that you got into that part of the business very early on, right out of the gate. So what did your strategies look like when you were 1 year into the business and 2 years into the business?
Work my butt off. So I held as many open houses as I could. I feel like one of my strengths is the communication and the ability to find something in common with people. Around here, we'll talk about the Hawkeyes or the Cyclones, or, I can joke around with people pretty easily and just make them realize that I'm here to help them find what they want, not for me to get a sale, but if I find them what they want, they end up trusting me to get the deal done for them. But I've already built that relationship by that point. I know their kids' names, I know where they're from, I know if they're Hawkeye or Cyclone. We know each other by the point I get to contract with them. So I worked my butt off. I did every open house that I could. And at that time, thankfully, sales were fairly easy. Kind of came in and people looked at the model and they wrote an offer, so I was very lucky, blessed, whatever you want to call it at that point. But had I not worked hard, it still wouldn't have happened. And the builder wouldn't have taken note of that to give me a chance to be an actual listing agent on it.
Okay, awesome. Now, you touched upon the fact that you have a team, but that, you mentioned that you need a different name for it because the way that you've structured it is so different. And I think this is fascinating because a lot of my friends in the real estate business here in Colorado are at that stage in their business where they're either, they've been building a team, but they're running into roadblocks, or, they're wanting to start a team. And so I know this is going to be of value to them. So tell me what makes your team structure unique.
I don't like complicated things, number one. I like to keep things simple. And I like to reward people for the hard work that they're putting in. So the typical team structure that I learned or that I've been exposed to was you have a buyer's agent, you have a listing agent, you have a showing assistant, plus you have an assistant too. Like, that's way too much overhead for me to be able to sleep at night, first of all. And for me to be responsible for writing them leads, like I don't even know where that would come from. Would not want to spend money on lead sources. I don't even know what they all are, where they have I don't even do Zillow leads anymore. So all that stuff, I do not do. I wanted to be able to provide people with the mentorship to do what I do, which is a full service agent, and just train them with all the tools that I have, share my brain at any point with them. And they can use my brand if they want. They can use my logo if they want. They all have their own. They all get their own volume. None of that is mine. They get rewarded for their hard work. And that's the coolest thing, is to watch. You know, we had a rookie of the year in our office. And if I had taken her volume, she wouldn't have gotten that. I can't even imagine that being part of my volume and taking that away from her. Like that's just not how I roll.
So when you say taking a part of her volume, you mean in terms of having the split kind of situation? Right. Where
my volume is only the stuff I actually sell myself. She gets credit for all of her own volume, so that she can get the awards for it, or she can get the recognition for it.
Got it.
My volume is only what I'm doing, only the contracts I'm signing. They all get their own.
So in a traditional team model with buyer's agents, so those transactions that are closing where a buyer's agent is doing all the customer service from, essentially from lead to closing, that volume actually gets attributed to the team.
Generally.
Got it. Okay.
That main agent will get that volume. It'll be a team volume that all goes to that agent gets credit for it.
And when did you start building your team?
2.5 years ago, something like that.
So
and
basically,
I don't do any recruiting. It's all happened genuine. I'm a real estate agent. I'm a mom, and I like to enjoy life. I'm not going to go out recruiting people to be part of it. If they're attracted to what we have, like, it's generally a good fit and it works out well. But I definitely don't recruit. That's not me. I'd start stuttering or act. Yeah, no, I can't do it.
I hear you. I'm the same way.
Talking about it.
I know. Well, it's funny because that was one of my questions, because I'm the same way. I don't, I have this feeling of like, well, if we manifest a couple of loan officers that are drawn to the systems that we've developed, the way that we communicate, the brand that we've established, then I would love to organically attract the right fit, but it's not like a need that we have, because I am also running my own business. And so, yeah, I totally get that, which is interesting, because that was one of my questions, because you have 10 agents, right? Mm-hmm. And so did you even have a game plan to have agents on your team, or did somebody come to you and say, hey, I like what you're doing, can you teach me?
I had it in the back of my mind. I knew I needed a vehicle to share. Like, I knew that was part of my life's calling. I mean, that's whatever you want to call it. I knew I needed to share. I just didn't know how to do it. So when it became an opportunity for agents that want to learn from me, I'm like, okay, I could do this. This would work. I figured out a way that I did not want to do it very quickly, and transitioned over to what I thought worked for me, what I thought was fair to them. And then it just all kind of exploded from there. And the people that we have on the team they all help each other out. Like, our meetings take probably half hour than they need to, because we're laughing half the time and, talking about personal stories and that stuff too. It's just a good group of people. And when you can enjoy who you work around and you're building a lifestyle around your business, like, there's nothing better than that. So.
Okay. So it's funny, by the way, you keep saying things. I'm like, man, she's taking the words right out of my soul. I always, like you said, it's cheesy. That's my calling, to help people. And I had this thing in 2018 when this idea for this podcast started, and all these other things kind of have been coming to fruition, where it's like, I feel like I was put on this earth to help other people succeed. Yep. And that I've always known that my own success will come as a direct result of the number of people I help succeed.
Absolutely.
And that's what my heart feels, and what I feel I was put on this earth to do. So I know that, like, I'll never suffer as long as I'm intending to help other people. Right.
Yeah.
So I am curious though about the agents. So were they all brand new? Did some of them transfer from other companies? Or is it a total diverse group? What's the story with the people on your team?
It's a pretty diverse group. More new than anything. I only know how to help, self-starters, very self-motivated people that are driven. They all happen to be that. So obviously that's a good fit. Some of them had a little bit of experience, but most of them have been pretty new. One of the agents, this is a cool story. How I knew what I was doing and that my intentions were right is one of my agents that had been with me at a couple moves that I had made came to me, I suppose 4 months ago. I'm really bad with time. It's probably 2 months ago. I'm bad at time, but came to me and said, I'm going to go out and I'm going to start my own team. And I could not have been more excited for him, because I've said since day one, if someone comes to me and says that means I did my job. I've done what I said I was going to do, and they're leaving, and that's great. And I was so happy for them, and there was no bad feelings. He still comes into the office. We contact each other if we need something. So I think that was a good check for me, that I was okay losing him, so to speak, even though he's going off to do better things for himself. So that was fun.
So that leads me to 2 questions. Number one, so we'll take it one at a time, but I know that a lot of folks who are in the process of trying to build teams, I've seen people find frustration. You mentioned that they're all self-starters, and that's who you're willing to work with. So have you had to be selective, or have you just been lucky that you've attracted self-starters? Because I think that's one of the hardest parts about, you investing your time and energy, and then there's times where you might be investing so much and they're not matching that investment with their own efforts.
Yeah. I've been pretty lucky. There's always bumps in the road and bumps in the road. And I'm sure people experience that with me too. Even though I was probably naive to it. I mean, I think I've always been knowing what's going on, but I know that my mentors and stuff didn't think that the whole way either. But I think in general, like everybody's goals and motivations are to move forward and to work hard. And I think if that general feeling, that general energy exists, like it'll work. And I can tell pretty quickly. I mean, I've worked with how many people over the 15 years. I'm pretty good at reading people. And there's some questions that they could ask me when they're sitting across the table from me, like, okay, what do I get from you? Like, as soon as I hear that question, like, that's a red flag to me, because it's not, if someone asks me that, I'm not giving them anything as far as, like, when they're talking about leads. They come into this expecting nothing from me as far as leads go. But if they're sitting there and they've been in the business, but they want me to be feeding them leads, like, that's a red flag to me, not because it's wrong business model. It's just not my business model. Not that they don't get leads while they're here, but I do not want anybody expecting that from me when they sign on. I want them to be expected to come up with all their own leads. I'll help them find them, but they're not going to come from me.
Sure. And you also mentioned that you like things to be very simple. And so as a producing agent who is clearly focused on, having your own successful business and your own production, how do you mentor 10 other agents without it feeling like a distraction or that it's weighing you down? Just being transparent, because this is something I see in this industry, is these fears.
It just seems so natural to me, and it does not bog me down at all. It's just part of my life and part of my day. Like, I was at the gas station, I ran into one of my agents. We talked about what she had going on, checked off a couple of things, and moved. Like, it's part of my daily routine. And I think if it's something you enjoy and something you should be doing, that's how it's going to feel. It doesn't feel like work. Real estate has never felt like work for me, except for a couple of builders that I've represented long time ago that are no longer in the business, but I didn't love the product. That's the only time this business has felt like work to me. I can't sell something I don't love. So that, I think the fact that I truly enjoy it, it doesn't bog me down at all. I've written offers, help them write their offers at 11:30 at night before. Like, nothing gets me more excited than knowing they're excited and that I'm helping them get there. So.
That's awesome. Well, I mean, your passion and authenticity is clearly just shining through. So I love that. And speaking of that, you mentioned earlier that when you are selling product and, another agent comes with a buyer and, there's this respect to work together and whatnot. And I know that you're friends with other agents. So tell me a little bit about your experience with just developing relationships with other agents, masterminding, collaboration. I mean, do you have a history of kind of networking with other agents, either intentionally or just as a byproduct of just being in the business?
I would say it's a byproduct of being in the business and being present in the community that I work into. I'm not very good at your structured networking stuff, whether it be a networking group or going to functions. If people are ask you if I'm present at that stuff, the answer will be no, because I'm not good at that. I like genuine meetings and genuine interactions, and something about those makes me not feel like they're genuine. So I think something that I've built throughout the years from day one, and again, I remember specifically mistakes that I made along the way. When you're driven by money, or you're focused more on the money, especially initially when you're starting in the business, versus the relationships and the end goal and the long-term benefits of taking care of somebody. I always would tell my agents, no, there's not one deal, not one paycheck, no matter what the size of it, that is worth your reputation. And so no matter what happens in the situation, always do what's right. Always do what you would want that's on the other side. And after, repeated of doing that, you build that reputation, and the industry knows who those people are and who those people are not. And thankfully, I think anyway, I'm known as one of the people that will take care of my fellow agents and will support them and will respect those other relationships.
Oh, well, I love that, because you can always feel the difference in a transaction when the energy is collaborative versus combative. And I like to be around people that want to be more on the collaboration side, because we do all want the same end result. And while there is a negotiation involved and, there is money on the table, at the end of the day, I mean, typically a seller wants to sell and a buyer wants to buy. So if we can find a way to come together with that, it's a good thing for everybody.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
I'm also curious, because you have a strong history in the new construction realm of our industry, but you also mentor 10 agents. So when you're mentoring, are your agents following suit, targeting builders, or are you just training them on traditional methods of systems and activity and proactive and accountability and all that kind of stuff?
I think to start out, the nice thing about me having as much new construction as I have, and we have four builders represented on the team right now. So when someone comes in here, I can provide them not only with my systems, my knowledge, and help them with words and stuff initially while they're talking to people, but we have those open houses that I talked about at the beginning. I have those spots that I can put them in so they can get that experience. They can show, I can do this, I can do that, I can take them to close. They can get that experience that they need to then go to talk to builders. And we did just a week ago, we sat down and went through a list of builders that, maybe they represent, they list with multiple companies, and they're not exclusive to one agent. Builders that we respected, builders that had good inventory, all of that, to make sure we weren't stepping on toes and everything. Went through, and I helped them with words to say. I helped them figure out who they should talk to, or they figured out who they should talk to, and then I kind of helped them with words. And they're going to probably hear no the first 5 times they do it, maybe 10 times they do it. But eventually they're going to get a yes, and they're going to learn what to say and what not to say. And to me, that's exciting, because I know what I was like as a newer agent that started to get experience, started to get a taste for that. And if someone would have helped me, I stumbled and I figured it out, but if someone had helped me along that way, I would have eaten that up and just gone full force ahead at it. So it's fun to watch them do that, and to know that I can take what I've learned and use it in that way is a big deal.
Awesome. And do you, I know you're mentoring them, but do you also encourage them to seek out their own business coaches? Are you someone that's always had a business coach, or what kind of mentoring have you received that you're encouraging them to get?
Yeah, we have, so I have had a business coach for probably the last 2.5, 3 years, but I hadn't done anything before that. Again, probably stumbled my way through stuff more so than I would have if I did have a coach. But it just wasn't the right time, and I wasn't approached by anybody at the right time, so I just never thought about it. But now I'm on year like 2.5 or 3 of having a business coach, and it makes a big difference. And having somebody that thinks about things in a different way than you do is huge, because your way is not the only way. And sometimes to think outside of the box or your brain is a big deal. Like like I was telling them, I can't think like a typical buyer very easily right now. I can't read an ad and think about what a typical buyer is going to think, because I'm so far out of being a typical buyer that, sometimes you just need that other perspective. And if you don't get that other perspective, you're going to be blind to everything else going on outside of you. And I think it's really important to have that perspective.
I agree wholeheartedly. I heard you say something that I loved when you said, I don't go to these types of events because I'm just not good at that. And that's something that I've talked a lot about recently, which is this whole idea of figuring out, the whole 80-20 rule. 20% of your results are probably coming from 80% of your efforts and 80% coming from 20% of your efforts. So figuring out what you're good at and understanding that what makes one person successful in this business has almost no bearing on what's going to make you successful. It's about finding what you're passionate about and what excites you, and like leading with value and being sincere about that. And then there's a magnetism that comes with that. I don't even know if that's a word, but I'm going to look it up later. But this idea of, I see a lot of people in our business that are kind of grinding their way through success or grinding their way to results because there's, one coaching company that says this is the way you do it. And so you just try to fit yourself into that model without ever really having that self-awareness that I'm just not good at that thing. It works well for her, but it's not what I'm good at. So I'm going to just be true to what I'm good at and do more of that. Do more of the 20% that gets you 80% of your results. I mean, do you have anything to share on that and how you pass that message along to your team?
Yeah, for a long time, I did a lot, not a long time, but I remember years of doing stuff I did not necessarily like. And I really started paying attention, especially the last 5 years of my business, paying attention to, again, not to be cheesy, like what sets your soul on fire or what gets you excited. Because especially after being in it so long, there's certain things and that changes. What I got excited about 10 years ago isn't the same about what excites me in the business now. So I think you have to often do those checks for what you're passionate about and what you get excited about, because this is a pretty close to 24/7 business, especially when you consider the relationships that you're building outside of when you're actually working. And if you are not pursuing something that you truly enjoy, it is not worth it no matter what money you make, bottom line. And if you find that passion and you actually pursue that, it's going to be 10 times better than you even imagined it could have been. But you have to have the guts to move forward towards that passion and drop that other stuff and let it happen, and be patient with it, and be okay if you hit bumps in the road. Or be okay if you get a no, just knowing that that's your passion and that's what you need to be doing.
I agree wholeheartedly. And it's pretty much the main reason that I started this podcast, is that to just continue to kind of drill this idea home that whatever it is that you enjoy and you truly feel passionate about, whether it be a charity that you want to support or a hobby that you do. I mean, it doesn't have to be necessarily altruistic. It's just like you said, what sets your soul on fire? I had a coach years and years ago that said, focus creates fire and fire spreads. Mm-hmm. And the focus, what you decide to focus on, has to be something that you feel authentically excited about. And as soon as you put energy into that and you build some energy around it by collaborating with other people that love what you love, and then you find a way to put some service and value adding into your target audience or whatever collectively, then all of a sudden that fire does spread and you see results. And I've always joked that, mortgages are not sexy. So I had to find something I was passionate about, because it certainly is not like pre-approvals.
Yeah. I mean, they can get exciting, but yeah.
I mean, in theory, it's like closings, transactions, deals, whatever you want to call it, can and should come as a byproduct of living your life on purpose and figuring out what your purpose is. And your purpose is going to be different from the guy on the street, and that's okay. So don't compare yourself to others and then let that be defeating and put you into inactivity. Instead, like, figure out what you love and do more of that. And then you'll see what happens. It always works every time.
Yeah. But you have to keep moving forward. You have to do the work.
Yep.
Whatever it is, whatever direction you go, you have to keep moving forward, and it has to be consistent. Otherwise, you're gonna lose it. And
Well, I mean, I think the activities at the bare bones are the same, right? Which is like, you got to be in activity, you got to be engaging with people, making calls, showing up, getting face to face, doing handwritten notes, having events. You got to be out there.
Yep.
Just get out there and do it in the realm that organically aligns with who you are, and don't try to force yourself in some other box.
No, be genuine and do what you need to do to get from point A to point B.
I imagine it must be interesting with 10 agents that are all doing their own individual business, and you being your own individual person, that each of them have their own path, right? Like, you can't just say, hey guys, this is the formula and it's going to work the same for all of you.
No, you definitely can't. I share how I've done it and what's worked for me. And then, now that we've been doing this for a while, now some of my other agents can share, okay, but I took that and I did this. And that just kind of shows that there's a different path to success. There's different detours that you can take. And the best part of, honestly, of sharing my stuff with them too, is also sharing my failures, because, they see me now 15 years later at, being a top producer, being, a new construction agent that has builders. But what they sometimes don't know is the stuff that happened along the way, where I fallen flat on my face, gotten up, where I got a part-time job for one winter because I didn't think I was going to make it. There's all those sorts of things that I think are very important for seasoned agents to share, because the newer agents think you've always been like that. They just want to be where you're at. They don't remember or know all that stuff all that shit you went through to get there, that I wouldn't trade for anything. But it's all very important. So
yeah, I definitely can resonate with the falling flat on my face. I was not the rookie of the year, let's put it that way. So what does the future look like for you? I mean, what are the big goals for 2019 and beyond?
Yeah, we're very blessed here to have a very cool community called Prairie Trail within Ankeny. And our number one goal that we have here is we're bringing a couple new builders on, which is super exciting for the team. And we're focused on selling lots here as well. And there's 4 of us agents that actually live here in Prairie Trail, so we're super focused on that. So watching them get their passion and figure out where they fit into all that has been super fun. North Ankeny, we still have great lots over there in new construction. There's a shift happening, and our market is changing. And the people that are working hard are starting to, that 80-20 rule is becoming even more important right now. So the fact that we have this Prairie Trail project, we have North Ankeny, and we have inventory in Altoona and West Des Moines. It is going to be so fun helping them with this shift. So, I mean, of course, they'd rather it stay where it was at, not shift. But we are right now working our way through the shift, and I'm helping them become the best agents they possibly can be, understanding what activities are going to be important to come out of it ahead, and understand when you come out, if you work hard through it, you're going to be better off than you ever would have been had it not shifted. So kind of embracing the shift and using the inventory that we have and the products we have to do that.
I completely agree. I think there's huge opportunity in the market that lies ahead for those that want to be creative, reinvent, and reinvest in themselves to be the best version of themselves they can be. There's one question I forgot to ask you, which I've always just been curious myself, because I have not done a ton with builder relationships. So when it comes to that avenue, what does it look like to provide value and to promote that value to a builder? Because it's different than promoting your value to a traditional resale client.
I think it's easy for agents to think of themselves, and I think builders also think that some agents are just order takers when it comes to clients coming in. If you can't be creative and you can't think outside the box to make a deal happen, when things like the shift happen, being an order taker isn't gonna suffice. I think builders want to see value outside of what your general agents are taught or what your general agents know. Being able to put deals together because you can visually help and make, I'm trying to think of I'm trying to let you in my brain, and that's a little, sometimes it's really scary in here. When I look at a whole big picture of putting deals together, I'm able to see the whole deal from point A to point B, and being able to make that happen because you're creative, from whether it be sales price, moving stuff around. I don't know what I'm trying to say. This is where I go into my brain and then I get scared.
No, like you're saying that you really approach when you say full service agent, you're not just trying to say, hey, I'm just going to stand here, and when someone comes in, I'm going to sell it, and that's going to be the end of it, and I get a big commission for that. You're thinking there's way more to it when a buyer comes in, to getting someone from I'm interested in this new build project to I'm really happy at the end of the process.
Yeah, and there's so many parts that have to happen, and you have to be able to see the whole big picture. And there's so many moving parts. You have to be able to take the sales price and their net proceeds over here, put that into a new construction house that they're happy with, but make it fun and make it a relationship-based transaction versus just the numbers. And if you have the ability to do that and put whole deals together and bring them business, like that's a huge deal. Every builder has people that come through the door and want to write an offer. Like, that's not hard. It's bringing the people in that maybe weren't going to walk through the door anyway. It's bringing them to the builder. So you got to find the value outside of what the standard is. Providing the standard will not get you the business or not let you keep the business.
I agree. I think the same thing in the lending world. It's like the industry has shifted this year with rates increasing, and the old way of just going and cold calling agents and saying, hey, I heard you're awesome, let's have coffee and let me tell you how I'm good at closing loans. It's like, we should all be good at closing loans as a minimum standard. So what else are you going to do to provide value? Because I think the value add in this transition is that the real career agents, when a pipeline starts to dip and dry out, they're going to get creative and figure out how to fill that pipeline, because they're not leaving the business just because we're going through a shift.
Right.
And as lenders, I think we need to be recognizing that the career agents are not going to be, they're going to be finding ways to get creative, but they're thinking a lot about how do I generate business? So I think as a lender, it's our job to say, how do we generate business together?
Yes.
How do we collaborate and participate in database marketing? How do we follow up with past clients when you're too busy showing property, or maybe you're down in the dumps because you're going through a shift? So how do we bring our energy into our database and create something together? And I think that in both the lending side and the real estate side, everybody's going to have to step up their game. And those who are ready and excited about doing that are going to have an amazing time. So
yep. They'll come out on top when we get through it. So
definitely.
Then the reward's there as well.
I love it. If somebody wants to get in touch with you, Danielle, how would they reach out to you?
Probably the easiest, honestly, is Facebook. Danielle Seifert Real Estate Team, and message me on there. And I'm on that probably more than I'd like to admit. So that's probably the easiest, because then I can always go back to those messages. I don't like to have notifications unread on my phone, whether it be email or text messages, but those I can go back to. And I don't have a red little thing on my front screen on my phone. So
I love it. I love it.
I don't ever like to forget about people. And if I read the message and then I have no way to remark it. So anyway.
Well, I love it. Thank you so much, Danielle. I feel like I could go on for a whole nother hour, but I know that we both have to get on with our days, and I just appreciate you taking the time to share with us today. So you're awesome. Shar is right. It's all capital letters. Amazing. Well, thank you all for tuning in today. And as always, I implore you that if you're enjoying the content you're finding here, please make sure to subscribe to the podcast on iTunes. Leave us a review. It helps us continue to find amazing people like Danielle to share their story and inspiration for you, and also, helps folks find this great content. So I appreciate everybody tuning in today. I appreciate you, Danielle, and everybody. I hope you have a wonderful day and the best year ever.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.